Hi everyone, Kristina here. Welcome to another video at my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be using this die from Simon Says Stamp. This is the full card triangle die, and I'm going to be creating a rainbow shaker card or a full card shaker card. And because this die is going to be sticking to some window plastic or some acetate, I need it to stick really well, and I'm going to use a stick-it sheet to do that. So stick-it sheets are just full sheets of adhesive that you can put on your cardstock before you die cut it, and then it makes it super easy to adhere any die cuts. So I just adhered that sheet of stick-it so that it was just slightly larger than this piece of cardstock. This cardstock is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, so it's the full size of an A2 card. I'm using my Sizzix Big Shot machine to cut out this die, and you may notice that this is one of the new white and gray Big Shot machines. It's so pretty, and I'm also using some of the new colored cutting pads, so that's kind of fun. So I'm just putting that down onto the magnetic platform with one cutting plate and then the die and paper and then another cutting plate, and I'm running that through my die cutting machine. Now because this is a full card die, it's kind of tough to get through, but no problem, just kind of, if you're doing this at home, keep going and you'll get there. I used my Tim Holtz craft pick to help get that paper out of the die, and it all popped out in one piece. And then I was able to just press into those areas and those triangles popped out without any problem. There wasn't a problem cutting anything. It was just that when you use that stick-it, sometimes the pieces stay together. So I peeled off the backing off that stick-it adhesive, and I'm going to be placing some transparency right over the top. I happen to be using some embossable window plastic from Judykins today, but you could use some clear plastic from packaging or just anything that's clear in order to create a shaker card. So I'm placing this over the top, and it's just barely larger than this die cut. So I'll go ahead and take my scissors and just trim off those edges to make sure that everything is the same size before I move on to the card. So my idea for this card was that I would have each kind of row be a different color of sequins for the shaker card. So I need to section off all these areas as well as the really thin border. So I'm taking some 3M foam tape and I'm cutting it into even more narrow strips, and then I'm applying it to this die here. This is going on top of the window plastic. So the paper die cut is face down on my work surface. So I started first by applying the adhesive to the outer frame, and I kind of put it down from left to right and then trim off the end with some scissors. And I wanted to make sure you guys know that I would really recommend, if you're going to be cutting foam pieces like this quite a bit, that you should have some non-stick scissors. So the scissors I'm using today are the honeybee scissors from EK Success. It's kind of like the non-stick version of the very popular cutter bee scissors. These are honeybee, so they're non-stick. So after I had the frame, I went through and put some strips along those lines right there, and I took it all the way over to the end, and then I used my scissors to trim it off. I'm going to be using a bunch of different colored sequins from Pretty Pink Posh. These are their smaller sequins. I'm just going to do it in a rainbow pattern. And at first I thought, oh, I'll just, dump these in the areas, but you saw how messy that was. So then I switched to using just a little cardstock scoop that I just used a bit of some leftover cardstock and, made a little scoop to scoop out all the colors. So I started with red and went to orange. This little tiny narrow area is going to have yellow. And I'm just being really careful that as I place these sequins in, that they're not overlapping the foam adhesive. Although when I do peel off the strips of these foam adhesives, I'll double check to make sure that there aren't overlapping then as well. So I finished off the colors, and then to take off the backing sheets, I discovered or kind of anticipated that it would be easier if I used tweezers, and it definitely was. So I eventually used my hands to hold down this entire piece while I peeled off those strips, because I wanted to make sure that as I peeled them off, I wasn't going to pull up this piece, because that would be disastrous. All those sequins would go everywhere. So the most difficult part was when most all of the foam backing was taken off because it wants to stick to your fingers. So eventually I had to use my finger to hold down in the middle of that red area because I didn't want to hold the edges where the foam was. So then I took another piece of white cardstock. This is cut to that same size, 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And I just placed that right on top and then pressed really firmly. I want to make sure that all of those strips in the center that are dividing the colors, I want to make sure that those are adhered completely. So here we go. I purposely only used one layer of foam because I wanted the sequins to not move around too much. I wanted it to look very full with all the different sequins. The card base I'm using today is made out of 110-pound Neenah Solar White cardstock. I just scored that at 5 1/2. And then I'm using some Tombow Extreme adhesive to add some adhesive to the front of the card, and then I'll be able to place that shaker piece right on top. So after I had this all done, I kind of struggled with how I was going to finish this card off because I didn't want to cover up the sequins too much. So I decided that using some black cardstock and stamping a greeting that could be on a really narrow strip would look really nice. So I'm using the stamp set from Simon Says Stamp called Sending and Wishing. And I just stamped the sentiment stacked, so it says sending and then, or wishing, I'm sorry, it says wishing you a happy birthday. So I stamped the bottom of the greeting first along the bottom edge of this black cardstock, and then I stamped the top one. And then I put some white embossing powder from Hero Arts over the top. Those streaks of powder, that's from my powder tool. My powder tool puts out a lot of powder, but I don't mind it because I live in a very dry climate, so there's a lot of static electricity, and I don't want that embossing powder sticking to areas where I don't want it. So I put some foam adhesive on the back of that strip after I trimmed it down, and then placed that on top of the card. And that finishes the card for today. Hope you guys enjoyed, and it gives you an idea of what to do with all those sequins that you've been acquiring over the last little bit. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you guys next time. I've done quite a few shaker cards over the last little bit, so I have 3 more shaker card videos for you to check out. Go ahead and click on any of those and it will take you directly to those videos. You can visit my blog at kwernerdesign.com, and you can also see me on social media at Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and Pinterest. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and I will be back on Friday with a new video.